Hardhat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
I got no bounce. Even if I'm going to continue the music, I've got nothing. No bounce. Bobby Manning, Noah Dalzell here on a late night mournful Garden Report as Celtics win, but Jason Tatum goes down with an injury. It's really the only story that matters here. So we'll talk about that. We'll kind of hang around, see if we get any updates out of Sacramento, where Jason Tatum, as I'm sure you saw, left the game in excruciating pain after Sabonis landed in his landing space. I think it was dirty. I think it was reckless. And Tatum was in a lot of pain. So wasn't a great sign. We'll talk about it, get people's impressions. Noah's going to give you her history of ankle injuries, which might help add some perspective to this particular situation here. And that's it. That's where we're at. So let's roll through it. First, we'll tell you, show is brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get 50 instantly when you play 5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks. Get 50 instantly when you play 5. And then, of course, Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Bobby?
Game time.
Game time.
And before
Game
you guys
time.
start, everybody has sprained their ankle. Everybody.
But nobody quite as bad as Noah.
Nobody's bad. Nobody's bad as me or John.
No,
We're top
we've
2.
had it bad. We are 1 and 2. So yeah, look, nobody knows anything. Real quick, before we get into it, I will let you know it's bracket time as well. Not only game time, it's bracket time. And we are rolling through what I believe is the 3-6. We're in the phenomenal region. Right now, we're doing Damn It Amit versus Noah Halloween Candy. And that's Noah never having Halloween candy. That's the matchup right now in a 3-6 matchup. We'll also be doing Captain Jalen versus Luke's imminent $20 million contract, which we're
That's
certain
looking
he's
pretty
going
good
to get,
right now.
which we're certain he's going to get. We'll see how that one goes. So we'll talk about it. But let's get down to the Jason Tatum injury, guys. And again, we'll get the updates, which won't be updates. I'm waiting for Twitter doctors to give us the whole high ankle, low ankle thing. They're just not as quick. They're just not as responsive as the football guys who just jump in seconds later and tell you like, oh yeah, it's definitely an MCL, ACL situation. So high ankle, low ankle, hard to know. There's always a possibility of something broken. You don't want to talk about that, but Jason Tatum left. We don't know what it is. All I know is I've never seen him writhe in pain that much, and he looked really sad. And that is what I'm taking away from it right now. His reaction.
He also tried several times to walk it off and really struggled to. And so by the time he walked back to the free throw line, it looked okay, but there was no indication he was going to stay in the game and clearly couldn't come back. So it didn't look great. And Noah, just comparing it to past times he's had, a bad fall or just something that didn't look good injury wise, usually he just pops right back up and it looks bad for a second and you're like, oh, he's fine. And he plays through stuff and nothing seems to bother him other than the heat, the infamous heat injury there in Game 7, which he also played through for obvious reasons. But this one looked like it was another level, just in terms of the pain, in terms of it knocking him out of the game, in terms of him not being able to walk on it.
Well, let's think about what we know here. So he looked like he was in a lot of pain. The injury itself was pretty classic, like watching the replay, it looked like a good ankle sprain, but nothing crazy. But he ultimately did walk it off. Like he walked into the locker room on his own accord. Sometimes really bad sprains, you can't put weight on it. So the fact that he was able to do that is a good sign. I think the most concerning thing is just where we are right now. Like we're a couple weeks away from the playoffs. So it's just not an ideal time. I would guess he misses a few weeks, but if you look at the really bad ones, like Kuminga earlier this season had a bad ankle sprain. He missed like 2 months for that. That's kind of like the realistic worst case scenario. And I don't have any reason to think that he's going to miss 2 months right now. But if you're looking at like NBA players on the spectrum of NBA players, the bad ones miss like 2 months. And the fact that he was able to walk off on his own accord is usually indicative that it's not going to be a 2-month ankle sprain. And it doesn't look like it was something more severe than just an ankle sprain from what we saw. I think part of why the Twitter doctors aren't activated is because they're not that excited by an ankle sprain. Like they get really involved when it's like random things and everybody.
Yeah, but
Maybe
you always get that high ankle. You always get the high ankle because everyone's worried about the high ankle because it takes longer.
Didn't look
and
like that to me.
There's more issues there, so that's all you're waiting on, Noah. But I agree. I would like to come up with a contract between us on the show and you in the chat. If I promise not to freak out and assume the worst, I also want you guys to stop saying it's going to be okay. We don't know, but that makes me about as angry as the people who are like, he's out, the season is over. Don't say he'll be fine, guys. You don't know either. We don't know. Let's all shake hands and accept that we don't know, and we'll hold our breath until we do. Okay? That's fine. None of us know. Okay, no, you're out. Gone. Okay? We don't know.
You started banning commenters.
I'm gonna ban people for saying he'll be fine. So that's it, Zach. You're gone. Anyway, I don't know.
I mean, like Noah said, and you just had a good note on Twitter about the All NBA stuff. So he's at 65 games. He's got it secured, first team. There's nothing left to play for. So he could miss the rest of the regular season here with no real consequences, and it'll allow Brown to get back in rhythm. And obviously, we have to talk about his return eventually here. And Shireman now. I mean, it's kind of crazy, John. You said it literally yesterday. Shireman doesn't matter until a significant player goes down, and his skill set has to step into that void a little bit here. And we obviously saw him for the full fourth quarter there. So that's something we have to start thinking about down the stretch a little bit here too. But like Noah mentioned, again, there's so little time left. He's so important that I almost think you assume, what is there, 11 games left? Let him get 100% and miss these 11 games and hopefully be back for the first round, regardless of the severity. Like, I think you just take the utmost caution with this.
Yeah, you do.
Don't even put that up there, John. We live in too fleeting of a world.
Ben Vallis first to the floor is a fair comment. It's not as simple as sit him all the way to the playoffs because you need reps. And then other people are going to log more minutes if Tatum is sitting. That's all true. Absolutely all true.
And now Hauser's down. Like, there's a lot going on right now.
I don't know about the Hauser thing, Bobby. I think he might have just been getting the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah,
off.
I'd hope so.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they just go back to whatever injury the guy has dealt with this season when it comes to resting. So it's hard for us to tell, but he played 39 minutes or something crazy last night, had a great game, and then he was on the injury report today. Same thing with Drew. They put him on for the shoulder injury. It didn't mean anything. So I would lean Hauser is probably not re-aggravated.
I don't think so either.
He didn't look limited, yeah.
I will say I don't know what the hell Jalen was doing out there tonight. I'm definitely confused by that.
We'll get to that.
I'm really confused what's going on here. I have no idea. I have no idea.
He traveled like 3 times, right?
I just don't know what he's doing out there. Like
why he's playing.
He didn't seem ready to play either. He was really unengaged, just disengaged. He was wasn't attacking. He had one small spurt there where he got a little bit aggressive and got a couple buckets, but he was just there. So I'm not really sure what was going on. The worst thing about the Tatum thing is not like, forget the gloom and doom on the worst case scenario, best case scenario. You realistically have about 3.5 weeks before like you're going to have to play a playoff game with the play-in situations and the season ending. And so,
that helps.
It's nearly a month. And if it's on the severe side of the 4 to 6, can you survive a series? Can you survive a series? Whatever.
It'll be a tougher series than you want it to be, but you can.
It's more of an issue of as Noah talked about, and we've discussed a good bit over the last few shows, he's just peaking. He's just hitting that level right now where everything, and when he was on it tonight too, he was just completely in command of everything that he was doing, just all over the place, so locked in, both ends of the floor. He's just separating himself. He's entering that rare air stratosphere of like, yes, I'll take care of everything, sort of type of basketball, which is always what you kind of wanted for him. I think one of the knocks on Tatum might have been, is he the guy you just kind of give the ball to and get out of the way and know that he'll handle all of it, passing, scoring, all of that stuff. And he's reaching it, and he's never played better. And it's the disruption of that, however long it would take to get back into physically, the way he was feeling really good, but also just kind of disrupting his flow because he was playing so well. I don't want him to stop playing for a long period of time. That's what bugs me, even if he does come back in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah, that
I think
first
that's the
quarter,
biggest.
ridiculous.
What? Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest concern right now, is less like he's going to be out for months and miss the playoffs and something terrible happen. It's more, I had this feeling like he was really poised for the best playoff run of his career. He's been playing the best basketball of his career, and I think this team's going to need him maybe more than they did last year. And so you just don't want anything to disrupt that. And maybe this is going to be better than we thought, and he just misses 2 games and comes back. And he has a history of responding pretty well to these ankle injuries. This is pretty regular for him. The landing space thing, I feel like he's been a victim of that a bunch of times over the past few seasons. So, the fact that he was able to walk, all that, like, that's realistically more likely what's going to happen here. Or, we don't really know for sure. But I do think that the fact that it's going to disrupt his flow, and he was playing so well and they really need him, like, that's kind of the big bummer here.
Oh, yeah. And again, that first quarter pretty much scored or assisted on all their baskets. I think the final number came out to like 3 makes, 5 assists out of their first 10 baskets, which was crazy. And then carrying that forward, the mid-range is rolling, just in complete control. And the passing, as we mentioned, reaching a level where it had never been before. And so there's just this rhythm, this flow. Obviously, the scoring ticks up when you need it. I think he had 17 in the first half overall there. So everything, it was there for him at that point. And I kept stressing, John, he was moving pretty solidly in the third in that MVP race, which I get it. Woohoo. It's third, but it's still a real step for him, a step close to that top echelon of the league. And I totally agree with Noah to this point where when you look at the numbers this year, they're not staggering like they've been in the past in terms of him being on, him being off. They're +7 when he's on. They're +11 when Jalen's off and he's on, which is a really vital thing because he's able to carry them through some of those heavy bench lineups as we saw yesterday. But then when you get into both of them being off, which is obviously something they're going to have to deal with for however long he's off for certain stretches in games, they're +1. And that's when you really suffers, when both those guys are off the floor. So it's not like him being gone, you can't do anything or you're screwed. They actually looked really good tonight. I think it was 30-26 after he left before the garbage time. But I feel like, to your point, Noah, they need him more involved, taking more shots, passing more, running more sets. When that's happened this year, they've looked special. And now this probably disrupts that flow a little bit at the very least, regardless of how much time is lost, to your point, John.
Real quick, I want to say thanks here in the chat, James. We do appreciate that. And yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're here. It's late, but we don't care. And obviously a lot to talk about with the Tatum situation as we kind of wait and see if we get any updates out of there. But we appreciate you here, and anybody who does contribute with super chats, click that little $sign and fire away. We're more than welcome. We do appreciate it. With your super chats here, it goes out to the hosts. So thank you again for those sending them in. But continuing on here on this one, Noah, I know I don't do this. I hate ref stuff. And I hate whatever. I just never do. I never do the ref thing. I never do. But you have a ton of people who are always pretty upset about the calls Jason Tatum does or doesn't get. And the reason I never get obsessed with it is I think he just wants the superstar calls instead of legitimate calls. And sometimes he's complaining because hey, maybe another player would have gotten this. But I will say Tatum not getting superstar calls and people being emboldened to maybe, I'm not going to say take shots at him, but these reckless closeouts or whatever it is, because they know they can get away with it. You do wonder, do people think that they can push it a little bit with Tatum because he's not getting these types of calls? This type of play drives me insane, like right to jail. There's plausible deniability with it. Oh no, I was just playing defense, but it's bullshit. And it is, if not flat out intentional, it's intentionally reckless with a shrug my shoulders, I didn't know what was going to happen sort of situation. It's just inexcusable. It drives me insane. So I don't really have a point here other than to say that watching that makes my blood boil more than anything else. That play from Sabonis and it not being that foul in general is so bad, and the punishment does not fit the crime. Like, those are such bad, reckless fouls. It drives me insane.
I'll just say I think it's a play that is a little bit too common in the NBA. Like, it feels like every game you get one of them or every other game. And just considering the fact that they lead to injuries like half the time when you land underneath somebody, it probably is something that's a worthwhile point of emphasis. I don't personally feel, maybe people disagree with me, I don't think Sabonis was being malicious. I don't think that it's reflective of him as a player, but it is something that you may as well just flagrant to it so that guys are it's on their mind to be like, I can't do a landing space foul on somebody because it's too dangerous.
We do.
But this is more of like a bigger question than this particular play.
Has to be.
That kind of foul happens pretty frequently. And it's dangerous all the time. And he gets it all the time. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the way that he squares up. I feel like he lands on these 3-point fouls more than anybody else in the league. And I'm sure that stat is tracked somewhere, so maybe we can find it. But just wanted to say, I see on Twitter here, Adam Himmelsbach, who I believe is like one of the only reporters that's actually at this game, said that Tatum is not speaking, obviously, because he doesn't speak after injuries, but that he's at his locker room eating and joking with teammates and wearing sneakers on both feet. So that's a good sign. Like, wearing a sneaker is a pretty good sign that he's not in a boot or anything like that. So just throwing that out there.
No, it's good. You never know when he walks out of the arena if he's wearing the boot or not. So we'll see if we get an update on that. But again, it's certainly better than him being on his way to the hospital right now.
I guess.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
So it's a low bar.
No, yeah. I agree. You take every little bit. No, I disagree. I think
it's not cut off, John.
I also will just say
Sabonis is a habitual line stepper in my opinion.
He was smashing the guys all night.
He's a line step. He's a habitual line stepper.
Okay, and I will just say, I realized in my last year and a half, I've written some things about fouls and talked about fouls. I realize I always lean on the side whether or not it's intentional. I always lean on the side of like, nobody ever means to hurt anybody. Like, we play hard. You see what happens. So I have a little bit of bias where I think this is where I land in general on plays. So I'm just gonna not speak on this stuff because I realize I'm always on an island by myself defending people who are like
I'm normally not here. That's what I mean. Is like, I don't go here. It's not my style. I'm not a dirty play and this and that. A lot of times I think, but this particular foul, and I think Sabonis is a little bit loose with some of the elbows and some of the extracurricular stuff and the shoves and this and that. I think you can control this as a defender if you want to. If it's on your mind, I really don't want to do this because it's so bad. If you're a good karma dude, you're not doing this to people. Only people who don't give a crap if the person gets injured or not do this. It's not a naturally occurring basketball play landing in people's zone. If you want to avoid it, you can avoid it. I do think sometimes with the ones who do it, I feel like it's always the same types of guys who are like, what? I just got here. That's why it drives me crazy.
So watching him tonight,
I think it's a totally avoidable foul.
Yeah, and I do connect it to the way he played leading up to that. There was a collision with Brown, I think an elbow or something like that left Brown on the ground pretty shortly before this, I want to say. And just watching him throughout the game, ton of collisions, embracing contact nonstop, initiating contact. And this is one of my favorite players in the league, so I hate that he's going to become a Celtics villain of sorts here. And I do embrace guys who play like this because that's your game. Like, you have to play this way if this is going to be your game. So there's really no way around it for him, Giannis, some of these guys who are just constantly creating contact, initiating contact, involved in these kind of collisions. And this is obviously a different kind of play out on the 3-point line. But it didn't surprise me that ended up happening just because of how often he was involved in just crashing into guys, bodying guys, elbowing guys. It was just nonstop before this. And I don't know what you do if you're the refs, because you can't call everything on a guy like this, but you do have to control it to some degree somehow leading up to this. So I actually will. I never do it, John. I will give the fans who are pissed about the officiating tonight a little bit of leeway, because I can kind of tell when it matters in a game. I can feel it, and it almost never does to me. But tonight it felt like it a little bit. They were just letting the Kings smash the Celtics around.
It almost never does to me
spoke
too.
on the injury post game. Do you guys want to hear what he had to say?
First off, I want to say thank you, Deflategate, here for your super chat. That was Noah's update here earlier, eating, joking with teammates. And Eric wants to know, is Brown still injured? We'll talk about that in a little bit. We got another question in here as well. I just wanted to address these. What's the Sabonis update?
I feel horrible. I've had a crazy month myself personally, and you never want that to happen. I apologize.
Don't believe
He did
him.
just come back from an ankle injury, yeah.
Don't believe it.
You don't believe he's sorry?
No.
John thinks he's
Sounds like he's a bad person.
I believe he wants us to think he's sorry, but that's
Okay.
he's
fine.
reckless. He's reckless. That's
reckless.
The best way
I
to
didn't
describe
realize
it.
how disliked he is by different fan bases, because I'm seeing all of NBA Twitter right now banding together against Sabonis. I didn't realize he was involved in so many plays.
You know who played this way?
There's
for
a
the
lot of
Celtics?
people who think he's this guy. You'll see it. A lot of people are coming out of the woodwork like he's like this every game.
Yeah,
We just don't see it.
It's his game. Yeah,
he knew what he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't.
He
Sorry,
just
and I agree.
constantly.
It's what Noah said. There's two things. One, you're right. If Tatum, I don't know if Tatum needs to be officiated differently, and that contributes to something like this. I'm not ready to go there, but I absolutely agree that you want this out of the game, and it should be out of the game, because I can't stand this. I can't stand this play. You have to make it an automatic flagrant 2. You get in there, you land in their zone, you're gone. Sorry, and that's how you.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one, because that'll come back
Nope.
on you, and you'll be like, oh.
Yeah, it
So,
sucks.
yeah, it's
Too
a tough
bad.
one.
It stinks when you flip a puck into the over the stands in hockey, and it's an automatic 2, but they just don't want people doing it and being like, oh, it was an accident. Like you just if you penalize it enough, people really, really, really don't want to do it.
I wonder if there's some way to attach it to a guy leaving a game or something like that. A guy. I guess a guy could go into the tunnel at that point and then come back a minute later, so the guy gets kicked out. But I don't know. 2 does feel a little severe for me, because these plays, to Noah's point, happen a lot. So maybe if it goes up 2-2, it doesn't happen as much. But think
That's
about
the
it,
point.
John.
Yeah.
This is
Maybe
Domantas Sabonis, who's a pretty, ground-bound, low-post defender, out 30 feet from the basket on Tatum shooting a step back. So it's not an easy play to defend for anyone, never mind a guy like that stepping out there, and it'll become impossible at that point if you raise it up to flagrant 2. You'll just have to let those shots go. So the defense, which is already put in a very difficult position in this league, would be even more difficult one there. So I think it's fine where it's at. Like flagrant 1, that's a pretty severe penalty right there. It was could have been a 5-point play if Tatum hit both the free throws there. So also, why do you have to shoot the free throws? They should have been able to sub someone else in there for those. In my mind, I don't know what the rule is exactly, but I thought you didn't have to shoot him.
I think he wanted to shoot them. I don't think.
Yeah, that
he
might have
doesn't
been
to. Yeah. Also, if he doesn't shoot them, then he's out for the rest of the game, and I think he probably.
I thought on a flagrant it wasn't that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, really?
I don't think it's that hard to avoid the player. I don't think it's that hard to close out there and not do the reckless thing. And if you want it out, you got to penalize it severely. You miss a game, you're not going to do it again. That's my stance. This isn't a.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Oh my God, Jason Tatum got hurt and he plays for the Celtics. That's not it. I hate it throughout. It drives me nuts.
I get it. It's a bad play.
Yeah.
It's a bad.
I'm with you
nuts.
because I think it's just one of those things that you can. You change the culture around it, and it's changed a little. I mean, it used to not be anything. So
well, think about the
culture
line
around it,
between
people
a
are going
1
to
and
live
a
in
2.
fear of. What was that?
Think about the line between a 1 and a 2 in general, which I hate, because there's a lot of plays that look like 2s to me that they just call 1s seemingly to keep guys in the game.
See, I always
But
feel the
this-
opposite. I always feel like
but-
the ones get called as twos. I need to change my mindset here. I'm willing to say I'm in the wrong.
But just think
No, it's
about
not.
this.
It's yeah.
Think about
Go
this
ahead.
play though. It wasn't Tatum in midair and like Sabonis just coming over and clocking him out of midair. Like it was a basketball play. So you put a flagrant one on it to make it severe and de-incentivize guys from doing it. But I mean, could you imagine like some Celtics player does it like 2 plays into a playoff game and it's flagrant 2 and he's out of there? Like it feels a little severe.
I mean, there's no in between though. That's the problem. You
Yeah.
know, it's either nothing, which is a slap on the wrist and a couple of free throws, or you're trying to remove it. Like I can live with. I mean, what's the trade-off? The best player is out for the game versus 2 free throws. I'll take the 2. It's not even comparable. The benefit that you get if you injure somebody doing this, and all you get is a flagrant 1, and they get a couple extra free throws in the ball, means nothing. So
I'm fine with a flagrant 1 here.
Clearly, but again, it doesn't address the problem. So maybe you're too nice, Bobby. Maybe that's the problem. We don't know here. Anyway, we don't have Noah for much longer because she's flying to Phoenix tomorrow. Even though she said she'll only be on part of the show, I highly doubt she's going to actually tap out early.
I am
Not going to
gonna tap
happen.
out at some point.
And if
but
she
I'm gonna
just
last a little
told me
longer
that she
than I
was going to,
said.
if she just told me she was going to do the show, I wouldn't be here right now. But that's
Can't believe
fine.
But
we're
John,
30 minutes in.
you would have been here anyways. You would have known to be here for a post-Tatum injury show. Come on.
I don't know. Anyway, real quick, we want to tell you while we have everybody get this out of here. It's that glitchy thing. We want to tell you about our sponsor over at PrizePicks, who we love. #1 daily fantasy sports app. You want to get in on the action here. Basketball action, college, pro, what have you. Pick more, pick less. I believe you got a Cooper Flag free square coming up soon for this weekend's games. But check it out. Pick more, pick less. 2 or more players win up to 1,000 times your cash when you play PrizePicks. Play $5, get 50 instantly in your account when you download the app and use the code CLNS. Once again, download the app, code CLNS, play 5, get 50 instantly. Again, for America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, PrizePicks. Run your game. Why don't we check in a little bit on our bracket here? Amit, what do we have for results? What are we doing here?
I don't
Anything
know which
good?
way I'd go, Captain Jalen versus Luke 20 million. I mean, those are like
It's a
my
runaway.
two-
Amit knows. It's a runaway. Damn it, Amit is just crushing it right now. We'll move to the other one in a little bit here. We do have a little bit of an update from Joe Mazzulla, and I'll read it to everybody here in 1 second. Joe Mazzulla says, asked about Tatum missing games due to the ankle sprain. Joe said, I literally just asked him how he's doing. He said, okay. I know he'll do anything and everything to make sure he gets better. So not much of an update. Mazzulla also said he seems to be doing okay. He's icing it now, taking care of it now. So Joe giving us really all the information we need. I feel better now. I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anything to say.
I
there.
learned that there's no point to there's nothing we're gonna get after games
Nothing.
from Joe. Ever since the finals, when Joe said he had no concern, zero concern about Porzingis.
Ridiculous.
Well, maybe he didn't have any, but I think it's just
I don't even it's really annoying, and it's a smack in the face of the fans. Like the best player on the team just got hurt and people want an update, and it's always icing it. I don't know.
I know,
Well,
but I mean,
he probably doesn't have much right now.
Honestly, I don't think you have much until you get until you get imaging or whatever. The good thing is
That's fair.
They didn't send him for, I don't know if they probably have x-rays there in the arena. It'd be nice to know that there's like no break, but there'll be further testing. Something like that would be good. Getting nothing is annoying. It'd be nice to rule out a thing or two. So we have to sit here and talk about him being able to tie his shoes and eat as our positive medical updates, which is good. He's eating and he's wearing shoes. So we know that, but no, that is a good sign.
I was
Yeah,
really
it
hurt
is.
by that.
I'm
You
glad he's got an
definitely need
appetite.
definitely need a healthy ankle to eat.
No, I
So-
mean, again, it doesn't seem like it's something so bad that, like John said, he's going to the hospital or he's just not even in the room or, he's writhing in
He's
pain.
laying there
so-
and his foot's up at 90 degrees because he can't, like if he's sitting there eating, I think. I was really
They do
encouraged by
seem
that.
like
Maybe
they
I'm
do
running-
seem like legitimately positive signs.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
But
gonna bring
again-
up non-Tatum injury things, but I don't want to move us forward yet.
Regardless
I
of the
mean-
injuries and the severity, what you said is the most important thing, John, is it's just going to knock him out of action for some amount of time here, break his rhythm just a little bit, and he was rolling at such a high level that it really stinks. The timing couldn't have been worse.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. So it's the Jaylen Brown show now. So we will move it a little bit here. Look, I want to spend more time on Baylor Shireman, but while we're talking about injuries, we're going to roll into Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, who was out for the 2 games over the weekend, and the idea that he would be reevaluated today. And we didn't know what to expect. And we talked about, it was kind of ominous that they sent out a medical update over something that seemed so benign. And then Brown got upgraded to questionable today, and everyone's like, oh, I guess he's going to play. So then it made me think, I guess it was nothing at all. And so he's fine. They were just kind of slow playing it, give him some time off. It's all good. Then he goes out there, and I don't know what I saw tonight. I'm not really sure. Can you guys tell me?
Mostly uninvolved. That stood out more than
Yeah,
anything.
a couple things. One, obviously, he just did not have any rhythm tonight. You could just tell his motions, his shot. I think what Porzingis is on coming back from extended absences. Jalen doesn't have a lot of them, but from my limited memories of him coming back from things, it takes him a second to ease back in. What I was kind of wondering was he playing this game because he feels ready to go and fine, or is he trying to play in these games so that he is eligible for All NBA? I don't know. It brings me back a little bit to Tyrese Halliburton last year and how he clearly wasn't fine and had that hamstring injury, but he was just playing 25 minutes a night consistently. And the fact that he played 26 minutes today, I don't know if that's because he hit his face or because that was the plan from the beginning and he wasn't going to play more than that, and that's what the stretch is going to look like. But we're going to get a better sense over.
He's running
these
hunched
next few
over.
games.
Does anybody notice that?
He's kind of always does, though.
I know he does. That's
I've
his
always
kinda,
thought he runs a little
that's
weird.
his like he's like stalking his prey, sort of like
yeah, exactly.
So he's got that like a cat, like it is weird, but it's like it looks like it's really odd. It's really odd.
Yeah, the lack of involvement in this one stood out to me. Maybe just not great confidence on playing on it yet, or to Noah's point, a rhythm thing there, because the travels, the turnovers, the sloppiness when he did get opportunities stood out more than anything. They got him a good look early in the post there, but after that, it was mostly just him playing pretty out of control. Even that nice drop-off pass he had to Porzingis, he sort of had to corral the ball a little bit and get back in control, and then finally lay that down for an assist there. But then it's like turnover, 3 missed turn. How many turnovers did he have? It felt like 1 million in this one.
Jaylen Brown leads the league and should have been a turnover. If like you talk about potential assists, if there's a potential turnover stat, Jaylen Brown would lead the league by miles, because it always happens. There was my favorite the classic Jaylen Brown play of the game was they were whipping the ball around and nobody seemed to want to shoot a 3. It was like 6 people had a shot at a 3 and it zip.
That was the
zip,
play
zip,
I
zip,
mentioned.
zip.
Yeah.
And then it goes to Jaylen, and Jalen's like, I'm going to dribble. He takes one dribble and it just bounces off his leg and just spurts out into like Porzingis' hands, who put up a shot and got fouled. But it was just so comical because the ball is just zipping everywhere. And as soon as Jaylen gets it, he's like, kadoink, and one dribble and it's just gone. And so, yeah, again, out of rhythm, hasn't played. I think he missed 4 out of 5 games. But yeah, I don't know. No, that's the worst thing is the why, without really an understanding of how significant the injury is. If he's still not feeling 100%, you don't need to work yourself back into a rhythm now. Do it in 5 games, in 4 games. Like I don't get that. If this really is about, yeah, guys, I'm fine, and downplaying
it's impossible
his comfort
to ignore
level,
the award implication.
to get in here with the award thing, that's annoying as hell. And I almost do wish they take it out of his hands completely, because is there money attached to it? I mean, there's no more money attached to this, right? It's
No.
just an
No.
honor. When
Just
you're
an
going to
honor. There
take
might
70,
be there might
when
be
you're
some
going to take
bonuses in his
100 million
contract.
off of somebody's table, that's a different story. I get
And
that a little
Tyrese
bit.
Halliburton was in the position where money was involved. So I'll just say a couple things on Jalen. First, I'm seeing some Ramadan comments. Historically, he's been really good playing in Ramadan, so I actually don't think that his struggles are necessarily associated with that.
He has
Obviously,
been good.
yeah. So obviously, like, people are saying, maybe that's why he's low energy or whatever. And I would imagine that it would be really hard to fast all day, especially when they're playing these daytime games. But he actually statistically has been really good. So I'm kind of taking that out of my head as far as just trying to understand what exactly we're seeing. Then there's the reality that he's out of rhythm and was playing limited minutes and trying to figure when he's not playing, when he's not in the flow state, he's a much different player than when he's in a flow state. And I think that's the big knock on him, is that sometimes when you watch him play, you can tell he's in the flow state. Everything is seamless. Defensively, he's locked in. Offensively, he is not forcing the issue. He knows when to get to a spot. I think in the playoffs last year, there were a lot of moments where you could just tell he wasn't overthinking the game. Right now, he's not in that. And so I think the thing that I'm thinking right as I watch him play is he's probably just desperately trying to get into that. And somebody asked him a couple weeks ago why he was playing these games. And he basically said, like, he has a routine. He has a way that he likes to approach the playoffs. And it's important for him that he's engaged in those weeks leading into the postseason. And he's an NBA veteran. He has been in the playoffs every single year of his career, made deep runs every year. I understand where that would come from, of not wanting to be like, I'm just going to sit out of March because I have some knee pain that may or may not get better. Like, I'm not saying he's making the right decision by playing, but I think that we have to give some credence to why a veteran who's done something a certain way for a very long time would want to continue doing that and not necessarily sit. And maybe it gets to the point where medical people can tell him, like, screw that. It doesn't make any sense based on the injury you have. But you have to understand, like, where he's coming from, at least by wanting to play, forgetting the awards, which I don't know if they're a factor here.
Also,
and we'll learn pretty quickly if it is.
And this is one of those injuries where it just hurts, So it's like, if you rest, it feels better. And if you play, it might hurt. But how much it hurts is really determined by a player. It's not like you're doing tests on a knee to check stability and see whether everything is holding together fine and whether you can go back out there, and they see it, or they see how you're moving and like, nah, it's clear he's favoring one thing or the other. If it's just pain threshold, oftentimes that is up to the player. And yes, thank you, X3, for the super chat. And yeah, this is a little bit of a swipe at Jalen, who was a -1 tonight. And yeah. So thank you for that super chat. I do like this a lot. Luke and Duke is the new cookies and cream. That's like
a good one.
I like it a lot. And while we're here, we might as well transition, because we're not going to let Noah leave without talking about Baylor Shireman. The one bright spot to maybe wanting to rest Jalen, or if Tatum ends up being out here, and I tweeted this the other day, is I really just want to see Shireman play 20 to 30 minutes a night for the rest of the way, because it's exciting and it's fun and it's interesting. And I do wonder, the longer you see him out here, what I liked about tonight, Noah, specifically, is it wasn't, it's basically the main Celtics plus a starter. He was playing real basketball with actual Celtics against an actual team playing their actual basketball players. So it wasn't just, okay, he's there out there with JD and bench guys and Tatum. He was playing with multiple starters out there against not a great NBA team, but a team that was playing its guys as well. And once again, he looked perfectly comfortable out there. Dare we say spectacular at times, and feisty, and doing great things, and steals and deflections and all sorts of active stuff. He was, and then the pass was the pass, which was, the highlight of the night there on the steal and that behind the back look there. And the bench, that's as excited as they got all night, just lit up when he did that. So just another feather in his cap here, as we're kind of wondering, what's this going to turn into, and how soon is it going to turn into?
You look so happy, John.
No, but I love this stuff. I love rookies. I love possibilities. I love, this stuff like that. It's like, is this something? Could this be a thing? Like, it's so easy to write it off and be like, no way is Shireman going to have a role going forward. And now you're like, right? Is he?
Yeah. All I want to say is Eddie House spent a lot of time talking today about how hard Baylor Shireman plays. and he's played with a lot of NBA players.
Is this all
And
you do now? You just take victory laps?
well, I'm just gonna say I've had a lot of laps to take, and I do think that it's gonna cool down over the years. But no, I think Baylor's awesome. He's so fun to watch. He has this level of like swag that he plays with too that not that many guys on the Celtics have. The way that he is very he kind of very viscerally reacts to exciting moments. I thought he really fed off the crowd at TD Garden when he had his big game the other night. But he looks just so ready for the moment in a way that you don't often see rookies that spend half the season in Maine look. Like that's the reality. He was in Maine for half the season, and he looks like he knew that the second that he was going to be in Boston, he was going to capitalize, and he pretty much has ever since he got back there. I think people still remember from earlier in the season when he kind of looked a little bit over his head, missing shots. Since he's gotten back from Maine about 6 weeks ago, he's looked really good, even in really limited stints. Like he hasn't had great shot making necessarily until the most recent homestand. But I thought every stint he's looked really good. And now it just looks like he's playing with all the confidence in the world. And it almost looks to me, and I didn't watch him in college much, so I'll defer to people that have, but he has that same edge that you would figure he would have when he was playing before the NBA. Like he doesn't look like he's adjusting to the NBA anymore. And it hasn't been that long. So it's really impressive. And maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe he does carve out a role here. I don't want to say that I think that that's what's going to happen because it does feel too soon to say, and they are missing guys. And the playoffs, everything gets tight. And even Luke Cornett, I don't know how much he's going to play. He didn't play last year in the postseason. But I'm starting to think about it.
He did
and
play in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Come on.
we don't.
Not a ton,
you're not saying it's going to happen, but you're not saying it's going to happen, right? That's the thing. Is like each game he plays and looks like he belongs and looks like they benefit. That's the thing. When it looks like they benefit from him being out there, you're like, why would he not be out there? It's a really short runway to be able to hand somebody playoff minutes over the course of if he only plays significant minutes over 13, 14 games, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, in the playoffs, it's a situation where he won't be able to gather this kind of momentum. And that's a good thing about the situation he's in right now is he can play 10, 20, 28 minutes. And I think we've seen the benefits of that for him and that he can shoot his way out of a slow start or get opportunities throughout a bunch of different lineups to handle the ball. And that's the biggest thing for me is he's getting every night now, which is exciting to me because I still think the best part of his game is the passing and the vision and just his ability to do stuff off the dribble, whether it's shooting or moving the ball. And he's just getting more time and reps to do that right now. So we know the deal with these guys, John. If it's 3 minutes and it's 2 shots and the pressure's on to the maximum, it never seems to go well for any of these guys. Never mind him and the limited experience right now. So that's why I stopped short of that. But I think you put it so well the other night, John. Injury happens to a critical guy like Tatum.
I don't want credit for that, Bobby. Yeah.
But it's the only guy on the roster who has a comparable skill set to a guy like that. Like, no, you talk a lot about how like they'll use certain guys as like mimics for other people on the other team in the playoffs. And, you know, if they were going up against, I don't know, some great wing in the East here. I'm trying to think of an example, like maybe Jalen Brunson or something. Like they'd be using Shireman as Jalen Brunson just because of the handles and the shot and this and that. All of a sudden, you're doing that for yourself if someone's down and someone's out. So that's the luxury of having him right now. Is there is a real skill set here that you can take advantage of in a bigger role if necessary. But I do think it's only going to be if necessary, and that's fine because you have so much else here. And the Hauser thing blows my mind because you do have this guy shooting 50% from 3 over X number of games going back a while here. And it's like, oh, no, you know, Baylor's coming for the job. And I just don't get the excitement there for that replacement. But
we have an upset
about what
brewing.
Baylor's doing.
We have an upset brewing. I just want to let people know here that Captain Jalen is right now losing. A 2 seed could go down, is losing to Luke's 20 million. Luke dominates this poll. By the way, last year, the finals was third center versus lemon squares, I believe. So Luke we're going to have to start seeding the Luke ones higher. There's still time to vote through the end of this. And
he put in like Captain Jalen though.
Our Twitter handles. What's that?
People didn't like Captain J. I think that's why he's losing.
Whatever. Captain Jalen, it's close. It's close. Some people are lobbying for it. He voted Luke's 20 million. Anyway, upset in the works here. That's all I got to say.
Well, since Luke's going to make 20 million, it's fitting that he's going to win.
Yeah. Both things are a joke, Bobby. Yeah. That's fine. But again, it's fun to watch. Again, what was cool again tonight is sure you're down Hauser, you're down Horford, but he got first quarter run again. Yesterday we surmised that Joe. So this is what's interesting about Shireman playing that's slightly different than what we had expected. With the back-to-backs, you thought certain people might rest, or because it was a heavy such and such game yesterday, we thought, well, maybe tonight will be a Walsh and a Kada sort of game because they'll be mixing and matching some of the players that they bring in deep bench. That wasn't the case. He went to the same guys. Kada didn't get in until garbage time. No Walsh, nothing. It was Shireman again. So Joe, who we've talked about as being rigid in his rotations throughout a lot of last year, has not been at all this year. I think it's a real interesting evolution of Joe Mazzulla. He changed up how he did his Brown and Tatum rotations multiple times throughout the year, trying to figure out what he wanted here. When he was bringing people in, going double big, deciding not to go double big. Joe's definitely playing around with stuff. That wasn't something we said about him, a year ago. Not interesting enough to comment. I'll move on to something else.
No, I'm waiting for my exit. I was like, maybe this is my exit. No, I think you're right, John, though. I think I especially in the last few weeks, I felt like earlier in the season he was being a little bit more rigid. But there's also just there is less clarity this time in the rotation around like who it's going to be. I feel like last year it was this is your backup big, this is your backup, Shea Brissett can play in spurts.
This is your third center.
This year I avoided the line, but I feel like this year he's been kind of trying to figure it out. And Jordan Walsh got an opportunity earlier on. Now you're seeing Baylor get his. But yeah, I think part of it is like nobody really claimed those backup wing minutes. And I feel like last year, nobody really claimed them last year either. But
no, they haven't had one forever.
Yeah, they don't have one.
But they've been looking for one
Maybe
forever.
that's why I'm so excited about Baylor.
Yeah, and Hauser emerges it, so I think there would. I figured there'd be more love there, but I get it. This guy's a little more dynamic. This guy does some cooler stuff. You don't see Sam going behind the back. You don't see him pushing the ball in transition. So I get
it. It's also, what's great? You get there's a little like theater to sports that people sometimes forget, and he's fired up all the time.
Yeah,
like
all
that's
the time.
And that's fun. You like seeing that. You want to see the energy. People really take to it. So I think that that's a part of his game too, because you're right. You got a little bit of everything. You got some of the fancy stuff. You got the promise of like, oh, who knows what he'll become? He's a first round pick. So you can kind of tie your hopes to like, well, what if he ends up being really good? That would be awesome. But then he's like enjoyable to watch because he's fired up. He's looking at benches. He's getting, pumped after big plays. He's doing his little celebrations. Like he's having a ball out there. You love to see that.
Yeah, and I think there's somewhat of a shortage of guys on the team that are super expressive on the court. Like this is a group of guys that are pretty business, and so it's fun. They could use it, and especially as a young guy, like you can tell he's relishing these opportunities, and it's been a lot of fun to watch him. But I am gonna go now because I have to be at the airport in 4 hours.
Goodbye. Noah is checking in. Noah will be giving us Tatum updates from Phoenix, where they play on Wednesday. So hopefully we'll see what happens there. But Noah, safe travels. She'll be on the post-game show following the game in Phoenix on Wednesday and then covering the rest of the trip, which takes us to
San Antonio and Memphis.
San Antonio and Memphis. So that'll be fun. Noah, we'll see you on Wednesday. Bobby and I'll close it out here. While we transition to our next topic, I will let everybody know about Game Time. Can't not talk about Game Time. Terrific place to get your tickets to any event. And again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets by going to Game Time. It's super easy to use, very intuitive, terrific features. I love the panoramic view from your seat. You literally, you look at it. The pictures are amazing. You see exactly what you're going to see from the seat that you select, all in pricing, no hidden fees. So you're not going to be surprised by what the total is here. Ticket prices go down the closer you get to game time, or if you're going to see a show, to the start of the concert. I've used Game Time multiple times. Bobby used it to get him some Red Sox tickets for their opening homestand, and you can use it too. Again, we know getting into the playoffs, tickets are going to be hard to come by. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. What time is it, Bobby?
Game time. And
It's
yeah,
game
you need that panoramic view thing for Fenway with the poles and all that.
You need it for Fenway.
Yeah.
It is awesome. So we talked Baylor a little bit here. I'm gonna say this. I'm losing my resolve here a little bit on this one. This is getting hard to watch because, again, I'm looking at Drew Holiday and I'm not seeing a person who looks like an old, washed up person. I just can't watch him miss shots anymore. It's really taken a lot out of me.
Doesn't make sense. And the
It's
shots
killing
around
me.
the shots around the rim, because he's getting forced off the line more often. Obviously takes 6 twos in this one. You saw the closeouts a couple of times, force him off the line and onto the there. And I do like his ability to get downhill and make plays out of there. But it's almost like
Missed another layup. It's killing me to watch
the
this 'cause I
layup
don't
thing.
get it.
The layup thing's really tough, because I think what ends up happening there is, we've talked about the impact of him not being able to shoot threes. But if he's not able to hit layups and guys are able to play off him a little bit in the lane where he's trying to kick out of there, and he's looking to kick out of there a lot of the time, that's going to hurt him too. And there was a bad turnover at one point in this game, I believe, from him trying to force the ball somewhere. And they got him on the ball a little bit early to try to keep him involved, which I like, but it didn't really go anywhere. Tough shots. I think that's a good observation there too. Yeah, it's not looking good right now. And again, we're all just sitting here. We have the results, John. We know what he's done this year, and we know what it's looked like. We're all just kind of sitting here saying, all right, maybe he'll turn up for the playoffs and we'll get a different guy. And I think that's fair if you're holding out hope for that, but it's just hope, because the productivity hasn't been there this season for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's not there, and I'm like officially out of explanations. I do agree. I didn't love some of the shots he took. Contested mid-range, that's not his game at all. The layups, missing the layups drives me insane, because, again, a couple of these were really good moves and clean moves, and these are bunnies that he's smoking, and he's done it a lot. Yeah, and so I don't get it. And then, I mean, just the three's just not dropping, and it's just getting frustrating. So I don't know what to do here. I think Amit might have taken Amit we know won, but I think Luke is losing right now. Again, Bobby, we'll see.
Oh, really? I didn't expect that.
Captain Jalen, I think, rolled back into the lead, so we'll see. But again, this poll is running multiple places right now, so it's not all in one spot. But yeah, this is bugging me for sure.
Yeah, and I want to pull the shooting here real quick, because remember Brogdon had that run of just miss layup after miss layup that year. Yeah. And Holiday was a weird finisher last year. He would go left a lot of the time. It'd be very awkward, but I don't remember any finishing problems from him at the basket last year, if I try to think back to it here. This year, it's not terrible either, at least right inside 64%. The 5 to 9 foot range there, a little further out, it's 42. So, that's something I've noticed recently, and maybe it's not a season-long trend here, but that was something that really stood out tonight, just how flat he was around the basket, how many easy shots or just close shots he made in there. But if you do look at the shots right at the basket, he's actually up a little bit over last year. So that's not something that's actually been a trend this year. The trend's a three-pointer, which we've debated pretty much all season, John. Is it real? Is it not? Is it bad luck? Is it just him being all over the place, in and out of the lineup, regular season not really mattering? All we know is that it's just not going to be out of this world and amazing, and this cherry on top of this dominant team that you can't play away from anyone on this year. Like, I think we can assume that. Like, the 60% corner 3-point shooting is not coming in the playoffs. So it's just going to be something less than last year. How much less is going to be a big determiner of, is he playing in crunch time? Is Pritchard trading minutes with him in the playoffs? Like, what are you looking at there? And I think there's a lot of, this is the biggest question on the team, because I think it's something real, and it's something that's actually shown itself a lot over the season here, his struggles.
It's very much the same thing you had before with White, Smart, and Brogdon, where Smart wasn't playing that well and he wasn't shooting well at all, and you just defaulted to him to close games. But Brogdon, for a period, was playing better and he was generating better offense, and their offense was stagnating late in games, and having Smart out there was killing you, and they just couldn't break out of habit. And it was, and you had times where, Brogdon wouldn't play, like he'd play a minute and then he'd sit the entire fourth, and you're like, that was a mistake. They probably needed him there to keep things flowing offensively. Obviously, you're giving up a bit on defense. It's the same situation here where it's like, is Holiday giving you enough on the defensive end if he's a 0 on offense, or do you put Pritchard in there and have him be the spark plug and be able to, you're talking about, one of the most prolific 3-point shooters in the NBA this year. It's just, it's going to be interesting. It's a dilemma.
Numbers bear out. Yeah, when you look at the numbers this year, they're much worse with Holiday on off. They're 9 points worse per 100, John, on offense with Holiday on the court compared to off. And that's obviously because Pritchard's in there when he's not, right? And Pritchard's just been so great, and there's just that massive difference between those two this year. The defense is a little better.
And the starters are down all as a whole.
Another bad start for the starters tonight. Really doesn't make sense what's going on there, and I can't figure it out. Do you have any theories?
I don't.
Holiday?
I really do think that you're wasting talent the way they play basketball with the starters sometimes, with the matchup hunting. And I think they don't get into rhythm sometimes until later in the game. That's the best I can offer, because I think the upside and the downside to being as good as they are all over the court is there's multiple matchups you can exploit almost against every team. It's very rare that you can't find 1 or 2 matchups that you could just hammer. And I think they just rely on it and go to it. And I don't love that. I always wish they just come out and just whip the ball around and, and try to get their shots. So that's the best I can think of why they do that. But I don't know.
And to go back to your point on Holiday and the shooting here, when I looked at it, to me, the biggest thing that stood out is just the shooting. Like, they're 54 effective with this group. They're 61 with Horford in there instead of Porzingis. So I think it's just some shooting luck or fortune or issues, if it is actually guys shooting down compared to last year that they're trying to work out there. But the really weird thing is the Porzingis-Horford trade-out, because Horford's down. Porzingis has been awesome. And it just isn't bearing out in the lineups there, no matter how many minutes they continue to add. They came in a -1 with the starters per 100 this year, the Porzingis starters, compared to +11 last year. That was their strength, is just how dominant that line. They can't figure it out. Or maybe it'll just bear itself out with more minutes and more reps, because they haven't played together a ton this year.
That's the other thing, is that exactly that you've had the 20 games. This was a rarity tonight. This was like 23 or somewhere in the low 20s where they've actually had the starters there. So it's definitely a little bit weird. On top of everything else, it's impossible not to give Lucas flowers again after, this was like a quiet, awesome game from Luke again, coming off the bench and coming off of yesterday's game where he was perfect from the field yesterday, right?
Yep, 6 of 6.
6 of 6. So, Luke's entering like Rob Williams sort of field goal percentage territory right now. But another solid game for him. And then Pritchard as well, just comes in and he, drops those 5 threes, and it's just such a spark there. So Tatum goes out, and you would have thought maybe a little air goes out of the balloon. The first stint when he sat, the offense was brutal. And so when he went out again, I was like, and it took off. And again,
they have a lot of options. It's going to be weird what it looks like over the course of a full game, rotations and all that, for however long this goes on here. But it will be interesting to see how they work it out. Like, obviously, Jalen's going to take over the offense a little bit, the heavy shot load there, and hopefully he's ready to do that because obviously it didn't look like it tonight. But let's say Jalen's not ready for that. You have Pritchard who can take 20 shots, and it looks better the more you put on his plate. You feel better about him the more workload you give him. And obviously the starting thing went a little sideways there in Portland. So I guess you keep him in that role. And he was talking after that game, John. I don't know if you saw it. He didn't seem thrilled about the fact that he started that game. And then he kind of caught himself and was like, oh, yeah, I used to complain about not playing at all. I better not complain about starting a game. So, I feel good about him being able to take on some of that workload. Again, we talked about Shireman. He can take on some of that workload, and the opportunities there seem to be going well so far. And then obviously Porzingis is available and playing extremely well right now. So we're kind of balancing these two things, John. Like, Tatum's so important, and they obviously need him. And I'm trying to hype up his MVP case a little bit right now just because all these great things he's doing this season. But you look at the numbers and just all the talent here and everything they have, and you are kind of like, ooh, they can get by without him. Like, it's not going to look as great and it's not going to be as seamless, but they have a lot to work with here. So they're very fortunate because obviously a lot of teams, you lose a guy like Tatum and you're done. Like, season's over. You can't even win a game. So they're not in that position, which they're really fortunate for.
No, I mean, look, you lose Tatum.
Even White can score 20, 30 points sometimes.
Yeah, look, they could survive a 20, 30 game stretch without Tatum. But if you're gonna suffer an injury that keeps you out an extended period of time, you'd rather it be in the middle of the season or earlier in the season. So the timing here is brutal. You are hoping for the quickest possible recovery time here. And again, you're really hoping it ends up being a day-to-day thing and they decide they're going to keep him out 4 games just to be super safe and save him from himself. Because there's no reason to tough this out. This isn't Miami Game 7. Like, for the love of God.
And he just hit the 65 games to go to that conversation.
Yeah, guys,
so NBA.
I don't want to talk about that anymore. I find that so dumb that people make that an issue. Just enough with that. So yeah, look, if we get a significant, people are asking, we get a significant Tatum update, any breaking news will always go live any time of day. We promise that, provided, we're not in a place where we absolutely can't do it, but that's always our goal. Yes. If there is an update, we would go live. If the update is just simply, he's fine, he's day to day. No, we're not going to go live with that. But if something significant happens, yes, absolutely.
Are we going to get an email for this one?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so it is a bummer.
Right now, I do want to say before we wrap, it looks like Luke is pulling off the upset based on the early returns. I've got Amit, calculating, Amit Kornacki back there, working the maps and doing the math and just seeing if there's enough votes out there. Are there enough votes out there for Captain Jalen to win? It's still too close to call. So we're gonna have to wait for the mail-in ballots.
Who you voting for there?
Or the Twitter poll, which is going to be running all the way until game time on Wednesday. So if you guys want to make it up, if you're not happy with the results here and you want to get out there, take to Twitter and vote for Captain Jalen. Otherwise, it looks like Luke might have this one, might have enough votes to have this locked up. This could be our biggest upset so far of the bracket here. Again, to recap, Jason Tatum left the game, rolled his ankle when Sabonis, in a clearly dirty play, ended up in his landing space. And Tatum was really, really, really in a lot of pain. As bad as you see him, down, writhing, shaking his head, really upset. The good signs, he went to the bench first, came back, shot free throws, walked off the court on his own power.
Then according sandwich.
Then, according to updates, he ate food and was joking and he ate food and was wearing shoes, which is good. So we'll see. There's no reports now that he's.
I actually do think that's good. I hate to laugh, but yeah.
No, I know. But again, you can.
Before we get out of here, though, I do have some shout outs to do.
Oh God.
I'm just kidding.
Oh
I'm just
God, I thought.
bummed.
Did you remember the guy's name from yesterday?
No, I still have to go figure that out. But luckily, I know where he is, so I can go find that out someday. But I'm bummed there's no Durant Tatum Wednesday, and I just like the Suns won tonight. They've been winning a lot lately. I think they're on a little bit of streak here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 in a row. The Bucks game was yesterday, but 4 in a row. Durant's playing out of this world. They may be trying to get together a little bit here. I obviously don't believe in that team, but it was a fun time to be playing them. And obviously, no Tatum there is a bummer. So it could be a little bit of a challenging one on Wednesday, but I've
Yeah,
hyped
they're
that up in all these spots with them down multiple guys, and Celtics just keep rolling here. So
Suns have been weird. We can call it the Kevin Durant scouting mission for when the trade talks kick up again in the offseason.
we've talked about it so many times over the years. It'll be crazy if we're talking about that again.
Yeah. Anyway, we thank you guys for hanging out with us. As we said, Garden Report does not sleep. We refuse to sleep, and we are going to be here after every game, including Wednesday night's game with a 10 o'clock start against Phoenix, because that's what we do. We're gluttons for punishment, but we love having you guys hanging out here with us, staying up late. Those of you who are local, those of you who are in more advantageous time zones, screw you for not being as tired as we are right now. It's 1:35 a.m. on a school night, so Bobby and I are going to wrap it up in a relatively short post-game show, but I do feel that an hour felt about right here. Again, Jason Tatum goes down with an injury, hoping for the best. We'll see if we get updates tomorrow. You can follow along with everything that we do. You can follow us on Twitter or follow over on Celtics CLNS. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications. That way, every time we go live or a new video drops, you will be notified. And otherwise, if you don't do any of that, that's cool. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. So again, thanks for hanging out and have a good night. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way.
Yeah.
Fight Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke